The article that I'm going to talk about today is called Evaluation of Errorless Compliance Training in a General Education Classroom by LaPointe, Hickson, Nice, and Reimer from 2014. This study was conducted to see if errorless compliancy training can be successful in a general education classroom. Most of the research and studies that I read about for our project are conducted in a home or in a special education classroom, so this one was a little bit different, and I like that since it's in a general education classroom instead. They were trying to see, once they gave the command or the direction, if the student would start the process within 10 seconds and have it completed within 30 seconds. So that's how they determined if it was successful or not. So what they did was they asked a lot of questions prior to starting to see what demands or tasks were more likely to be done and which ones weren't, and they put them into categories level 1 through 4. So once they took their baseline data and then they started level 1, and once the child mastered level 1, then they went to level 2 questions or demands, then level 3, then level 4. Then they did generalization, and then the teacher took over. So for IOA data, they had a second observer recording recorded for 38% of baseline, 31% of treatment, and 33% of generalization, and all of that ranged from 80 to 100%. So they were good with that. During the treatment phases, children received positive praise for completion within the 30 seconds, and if they didn't, it wasn't that they were ignored, but no extra attention or reinforcers were given. And so that's really all that they did. So they started on level 1, 2, 3, 4, worked their way up. So the results from this study were all 3 students' compliancy rates increased drastically with each level. And during the generalization phase, 2 of the 3 were very consistent, stayed very high. 1 student decreased quite a bit in compliancy, but the other 2 remained consistent. So the limitations of this study that I found were that it was only 3 students. It only lasted 80 days, and that's pretty long considering, but it would have been interesting to see, like, for an entire school year, what the rates were. And the reason why this was so helpful for me was because I'm working on compliancy with the client that I'm working on for my behavior change project. So this has been helpful to read that compliance, and for the kiddos on the spectrum that we work with, for them to have that foundation to build up off of that is very important. Even kiddos learning to stop when they're out in public or sit down in a classroom with 23 other children without having to repeat. So all of these articles have been really helpful, and I'm interested in reading more as we go and to implement some of this with the client that I'm currently working with, and hopefully this will help increase his levels, because right now they're still pretty low. So I'm looking forward to that. Have a good semester, everyone.